Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're taking a look at the Retevis RA685 dual band amateur radio transceiver. Now this little handheld is available from the Amazon store in the UK, priced at $32.99 at the time of doing this video, which seems really good value for money for a radio that's located in the UK. You're not having to wait for it coming from China. It's available straight from the Amazon store. And I must thank Retevis for sending this one over to me to do an evaluation on, so thank you Retevis very much for this. It's always nice to look at new gear, and I really appreciate the support of the channel as well. But yeah, going back to this radio, it's the RA685, so it's a 5-watt dual band transceiver. Now this one's aimed at the sort of budget end of the market, I would say, in terms of the fact that it's affordable. It's not full of fancy features, it doesn't have a colour screen, but in some ways that's like a bonus, because if you're outside like I am now in daylight, you'll notice that you can see the screen underneath any weather conditions at all, even bright sunlight. It's just gone a bit cloudy out here, but it's still quite bright. Sort of in late August really when we're recording this video, and as you can see the screen is very nice to look at. It's quite a big screen size, it's got a lot of information on it. You can see it's in VFO mode on here at the moment, and all in all, I've showed this to a few people and they've quite liked the display. They've said, oh, that's a nice big display, much better than the Baofeng UV5R or similar sort of radios. So yeah, it's quite a nice looking transceiver. It's also very square in the hand. I've not put the belt clip on the back of this one yet, but it's literally come out of the box the other day. But as you can see, it's a nice compact shape, quite square, but it does seem a nice modern design. Now I know this radio has been out a little bit of time. I first saw it a couple of years ago, and I did see another manufacturer other than Retevis making a radio that was very similar to this. In fact, if you look back on my channel, you'll see a review of a radio that was very similar to this one. But Retevis have basically modernised this radio, added their own take on it, and one of the things that's been added to it is a USB-C port as well, which we'll get onto shortly. But as you can see there on the side of the radio, there's a USB-C there for charging. You also get a desktop charger in the box, which we'll also talk about in a minute. But size-wise, in comparison to other modern transceivers, I've got this Quansheng here next to me. That's the UVK58, I think. And as you can see, it's very similar size to the Quansheng that's on the right-hand side there. So think along the lines of Quansheng sort of sizing, and you'll also have some idea of this Retevis RA685. So anyway, one of the things we're going to look at today is whether it's worth buying. Obviously, this radio is aimed, as I say, at maybe beginners in amateur radio, or anybody looking for a PMR rig as well, you know, for something a little bit more sort of powerful on PMR 446, which I've got to point out would be illegal in the UK and in Europe, because this radio is capable of putting out 5 watts of power. However, people do use them on PMR, and we're not going to judge anybody. In fact, I've done it in some of my videos myself when we've looked at them. If you were to keep it in low power, it'd probably be acceptable anyway, but that's another story completely. By default though, the radio comes locked to the amateur radio bands, so it'll only transmit on the 2 meter and 70 sems amateur radio bands. But it is very easy to unlock this. You just literally hold down one key press, turn on the radio, and of course it's then unlocked. It just resets, and basically the full frequency range is opened up. And once you've got it on the full frequency range, it'll transmit from 136 up to 174 megahertz, and I think it goes 400 to 520 megahertz as well. So it can be programmed up for marine or PMR or anything similar to that really. So you have got the full frequency range available, but if you want to keep it strictly legal, only be able to transmit in the amateur radio bands that you're licensed for, then buying this from the Retevis store in Amazon means you're going to get a radio that's locked or restricted to those amateur radio bands. So looking around the radio, on the left hand side you've got the normal PTT button there, which is a pretty positive feel to it. It's all good. And there's 2 programmable keys underneath here which can be set to assign all sorts of things. There is a flashlight, of course, built in the top of the radio. And if I just push the button there, you can see it's quite a bright white LED flashlight, which considering it's getting darker on an evening now over here, it would be quite useful when you go out walking if you've not brought a torch with you or anything. So yeah, nice clean white LED on top of there. If you press the button again, it does the flashing as well. So that's very similar to many other Chinese radios. Some people have a good use for them, and others think they're a waste of time. But yeah, it's quite a nice bright LED torch that's in the top of that as well. You can program the keys to do things like scanning or you could use it as a monitor button to release the squelch. And the other thing you've got is an FM radio built inside this, so if you're not listening to anything on the PMR side or amateur radio, then you can always push the button and tune into your favourite local FM radio station. On the opposite side of the radio, you've got the usual rubberized flap on this, which is for plugging in a speaker microphone and also programming the radio. As you can see there, it's a standard K-type jack on this one, so if you've got any cables for programming Baofeng or Quansheng, they will work perfectly okay with this. And that's another thing we'll get onto very shortly, but the radio is programmable using chirp, which makes life a heck of a lot easier as well. Okay, so let's take a look inside the box. Let's see what you get. Well, obviously you do get the rubber duck antenna, which I've already attached to this radio. This is the pretty much stock dual band rubber duck, which seems to perform quite well, which you'll see on the on-air test very shortly. If we open this up, this is what you're likely to get. You're going to get the RA685 user guide from Retevis, and this is a really well written manual actually. I'm surprised at how good it was, because when you buy from Amazon, the EU stock of this radio comes with a really decent user guide, and it's multi-language as well, which is quite good. I was surprised actually at how much detail there is in here about programming the radio and how everything works. So yeah, it's pretty comprehensive. It goes through storing frequencies and explains what all the options do as well. So that's quite a nice little user guide for a change. A lot of these budget radios don't come with a decent, well-written user guide, but Retevis are going to great efforts to make sure that their products come with a decent user manual. So thank you very much, Retevis. Very good. Okay, more importantly though, we have a USB-C charge base for this radio, so I can demonstrate that hopefully. I've got a USB-C cable over here. I'll just pop one into this base on this thing, and as you can see there, just drop the radio straight into the base, and as you can see there, it's charging. You've got like a little red light on the charger. So yeah, any USB-C charger will do the trick. You can just drop it into there, into the base, into the cradle, and all is good. So that's quite nice. Pretty lightweight little thing. You don't really need to use it. You can use the USB-C cable that comes in the box to charge the radio direct, and that's something that I just want to talk about now just briefly. So that's the easiest way to get it charged up. It does seem to take about a couple of hours from flat to fully recharge, but that's not too bad. So if we just have a quick look at that, just on a side note, you can charge through this USB-C port that we mentioned briefly earlier on here. The only thing I've found is if you do charge from that, you don't get any charging indication as to whether the battery is full or not if the radio is turned off. So I don't know if I can actually demonstrate that now. So if I plug in this USB-C cable and plug this into here, and just pop it down a second and plug it into a power bank, the radio is actually charging now, but there's no visual indication on the screen when it's turned off. And I'd have thought there'd been some lights up here on this that showed the charging status, maybe just on this bit, but no. The only way to find out if it's actually charging properly is to turn the radio back on. And what you can see there, if you look very carefully in the top right hand corner, there is a charge symbol with the little battery sort of going across, so you know there's charge going into the radio, but unless you leave it turned on, you won't actually know whether this battery is fully charged or not. So that's the only downside I've found to using this USB-C connector on here, but it is convenient. You don't need the desktop charger at all. If you don't want to use it, you can leave that in the box, or if you're away from home in the car, you can just plug in a standard telephone USB-C charger. So yeah, it's pretty good, but I'd have liked to have seen something on the display, or maybe some kind of indicator light to indicate when it's fully charged up there as well. So yeah, convenient, but also a little bit on the confusing side too. So that's that. I'll just pop that out of the way. You don't really get that much else in the box. There's a stock USB-C cable there for charging. I haven't bothered opening it because I've got my own USB-C cable over here. And you also get the pretty much stock standard belt clip, which I've not attached yet. There is a couple of screws in there to attach. It's not just one of them slide-on ones. It does use screws to retain it, which is very good, because you know, people have lost them off before, and it just like makes it a little bit stronger really. And there's also one of those hand straps as well that nobody ever seems to attach to the radio. And that basically is it for the contents of the box. So like I say, it is a very basic two-way radio. That's what you get in it, and that's all you need, to be honest with you, to get going. So yeah, it's not bad. So moving on to some of the features on this radio, well, we've already mentioned about this lovely big display up here and everything. Makes the radio quite enjoyable to use outdoors, you know, at a distance. It's nice to have the bigger screen on it, and also it's very legible outdoors, even in bright sunshine. And of course this is a test because the sun has just started shining out here and we can still see the display really easily, which is great, whether the backlight's on or not. This radio was designed as an amateur radio transceiver from the ground up. That's why it's got a dedicated V and M button, which stands for VFO and memory, and also an A and B button to toggle between the top VFO and the bottom VFO. So you can stand by on two frequencies at once, and to simply change between them you just press the A and the B, and there's a little arrow indicating which VFO is currently active. So we'll just pop it back up onto 70 there. And the same for the VFO memory function. If we just push the VM button now, you'll see that it's suddenly changed over to what's stored in the actual memories on the radio. And the only thing I've found is that although it's really flexible, it's all or nothing when it comes to the VFO. You can't have the bottom VFO in like VFO mode and the top one in memory mode, if that makes sense. You don't get to choose between the two. It's VFO operated or memory operated on both A and B at the same time. But that's not really a problem. It's just one of the things I thought I'd point out about the radio. So very easy, you've got an up and down key on the front. You have no rotary VFO controller on this, you've only got the volume control on top. But if we press the memory button here, you can see there the menus are really quite nice and easy to navigate. I've turned off the beeps and the Chinese voice prompts and everything. You can have voice prompts if that's your thing, but I'm not really a fan of them. But navigating through the menus is real easy. Press the orange menu key and simply toggle through them. You can see there the step, TX power high and low. To select one, you just literally go into there and just tap middle and high. And in fact, I forgot about that. Yeah, you do have low, mid and high power on this radio. Unlike a lot of them that only have the low and high power, you've actually got a mid option, which is quite nice to have as well. I'm not exactly sure what that is yet. We're going to test the power output very shortly and I'll be able to tell you then, hopefully. But yeah, that's all you do to set the power. There's power saving options. There's Vox for voice activated transmit if you're using a headset or anything like that as well. Bandwidth, backlight, menu timeout, just about everything you could want in a budget radio is set up here quite nicely, which I think is quite good really. So yeah, it's all good. CT, CSS and DCS tones, all the usual stuff, repeater shifts, tone bursts, scan modes, PTTID. You can choose whether to show the name or the frequency in the memories. So yeah, all good stuff I would say. Nothing surprising in there. Usual stuff, that's the offset for repeater shifts and things like that. But you can program the keys to do different things. Those two programmable keys on the side of there as well, which is quite cool. So you can customize the radio a little bit to the way that you want to operate, which is all very nice. And you can set the channels and delete them, set alarms and all kinds of other stuff really. Roger beep I believe in there as well. And that really is about the lot. You know, there's no sort of super duper expensive fancy features, but it does the basics well. And that's the whole point of this radio for the $32.99 price tag. If I just pop the battery cover off here like that, there's your battery pack. It's a 1800 milliamp hour battery. And as you can see inside there, it's got the certifications on it. So normal frequency range for 270 SEMS and the serial number of the radio. It's a die-cast body as well. So yeah, it's really well made little radio really. It's not heavy or anything, you know, it's just snaps together like that. And that is your radio back together. So that's the basics of the rig. It does work well. The audio quality is pretty decent, nice and clear. And like I say, for anybody who's looking for a basic radio, then this might be the one to go for with the bigger screen. Let's test the power on it and see what it's doing. So here's the power test then. This is the Shawcom SW102 power meter that I use for all my testing usually. It's a good meter for these bands. And we've got it connected into a dummy load on this side as well, so we get an accurate reading. So let's key up first of all on high power on the 70 SEMS band. This is 433200 on full power from the radio. And as you can see there, we're getting about 4.8, 4.9 watts maybe. So just under the 5 watt mark, which is pretty damn close to what Retevis say this one does on the specifications. That's really good. So we're going to turn the power down to the middle level now. There's a mid power setting on these radios, don't forget. So that was what, 4.82 watts it says there. Let's do it again. This is on the mid power. And mid power doesn't seem to make a lot of difference. We're still seeing 4.4 watts of power. So yeah, a little bit less, but nothing majorly different there. So let's go down to the lowest power level on 70 and key up again, and the lowest power gives us 2 watts, just over 2 watts there of power on the low setting, which is still pretty good. If you're working stations in the local area, you can save yourself a bit of battery power, so that's great. So let's do the 2 meter test. So if I just drop down to my other VFO on this radio, high power setting first of all, we're seeing 5.99 watts there on 145 200. So yeah, just under 6 watts, which is actually better than quoted. So that's the 5 watt radio doing nearly 6 watts there. Not it makes that much difference, but it shows it's well within specification. So anyway, let's go down to the mid power setting next and key up again. And on mid power we're getting 3.96 watts. Now that's what I'd be inclined to actually use, around 3.96 watts, 4 watts, maybe mid power's enough to be running. Seems a little bit more balanced on the 2 meter band than it does on the 70 SEMS band, which is often the case with these type of radios. So finally, let's put it down to low power now, and low power on this gives us 1.6 watts as well, 1.58, 1.6. So you're getting 1.6 watts on low power, again perfectly usable around town if you're into a decent antenna system or you're just communicating locally. So overall I'd say the power level is pretty decent. It's as quoted by the manufacturer, more or less. I'd say the power's a little bit unbalanced on the 70 SEMS band, but it doesn't really matter too much. You have got the low power setting as well. The mid didn't seem to make a lot of difference, but yeah, all within specification there, so that's looking good. Well, I think it's about time to get out there and do some tests on the air and see how well this radio performs, but just a couple of things before I do. There is a scan feature in the radio, which is kind of useful, like most of these good PMR radios. All you have to do is hold down the star key and the radio starts scanning in VFO or memory mode, and you can see there on the display hopefully. The scan rate isn't too bad really for one of these type of radios. I mean, obviously they're not as fast as a dedicated scanner, but you can scan the bands. There are no band limits that you can apply to these. It just scans upwards or downwards from wherever you are on the VFO, which is kind of handy. But you can also do that with the memory channels as well, which is really good. Just press the star key down again to stop it. And that's about it really, you know, in terms of features, although there are 128 memories in this radio as well. That's something we didn't mention earlier on. 128 memories, doesn't seem like a lot these days, but remember this is just a basic 2 meter and 70 SEMS dual bander radio, so you might want to program a few like local repeaters or a few channels you use frequently. You're not going to be filling up the memory with loads and loads of things, I wouldn't have thought, because it doesn't have AM airband reception, doesn't have any fancy out of band reception like say the Quansheng does and all those kind of radios. It just does a good job of what it is really. It's just a good basic 2 and 70 SEMS radio. So this is kind of interesting, the close call feature. It's basically a bit like the Uniden scanners where it can grab a nearby frequency of another radio. So if you're unsure of what frequency a radio is transmitting on, you can key the mic on the other radio and it'll grab it and display the frequency and tune to that frequency on the display, which is really cool. It's kind of like one of those features that's hidden away in the menus there, but it's programmed on this first key, I believe, by default. And all you do is hold down that first programmable key there. So if we just hold it down for a second, you'll see it says seek on the display. Hopefully you can see that, guys. And it says UHF, and it's going to seek out any frequency on the UHF band that transmits nearby. So if a radio transmits near to this one, it should be able to grab the frequency and display it on the display. So for that help, I've got the Quansheng next to me here. So we're set to UHF. I've set this radio to 433-150. I'm going to do the same on here, so I'm going to transmit on this Quansheng and hopefully the Retevis will grab that frequency. So let's just press the button down and in a second or two hopefully we will get something. There you go, 433-150, and it came up there on the display. I had to be pretty close by to the radio for it to happen, but if we do that again, there you are, look, 433-150 has appeared on the display of the Retevis. So it's actually grabbed that frequency from a nearby RF capture, and you can do it for the UHF band and the VHF, and all you do is press the up and down keys to toggle whether you're in the UHF range where you want to grab the frequency or the other one there on the VHF range. So that's kind of like a nice little feature that's built into these radios. It's not the only radio that can do that, but it's a nice feature that's hidden away in the menus there. And I think that's really cool for experimentation. If you've got an unknown radio, maybe a radio without a display and you're not sure what it's being programmed upon, you can key the mic and obviously your key to transmit, and you can then grab the frequency with this little Retevis. So that's a nice little feature that's hidden away in the menus. So yeah, quite impressive really. Anyway, let's get out there and give it a test. G0SGR, this is G7UFS calling. Are you by the frequency, Steve?
Yeah, G7UFS, G0SGR returning. Yeah, got you, Simon. Nice and loud and clear, go ahead.
Yeah, okay, Steve. Yeah, thank you for that. Well, I'm up at Beacon Hill, near Flamborough Head in East Yorkshire, UK. I'd say I'm probably about 4 miles in a straight line from your location. And I'm just doing this test on this Retevis, which is the RA685 transceiver. So this is a little basic dual band handheld that you can buy from Amazon for just £35. So it's a pretty good value for money really, Steve. Nice little radio, very compact. I did show you it the other day, and you were remarking on how good the display was on this radio. Nice and clear to view, very legible in the sunlight there. Back to you, Steve.
Yeah, G0SGR returning. Well, yeah, it's, I can't pick any faults with it, Simon. It's crystal clear. You're absolutely, I don't know what power you're using, but you're absolutely full scale, straight across. There's no white noise or anything with the audio. It's, well, it's as though you stood sort of right next to me, Simon, go ahead.
Yeah, G7UFS returning. Yes, Steve. Yeah, very good audio from your side as well. Really good. Nice, clear, crisp audio. Yeah, fully quietening on the FM. No hiss, no crackle. Yeah, I'm using 4 watts, which is the maximum power on this radio on 70. It does just over 4 watts on the 2 meter band as well. But I'm really impressed with it for the money. I like the design of it. It's nice shape, very compact. Like I say, crystal clear audio. I can't really fault it. And this is on the stock antenna, so I'm just showing the viewers the antenna now. It's just a small rubber duck type antenna. Like I say, nothing fancy. You could put a bigger antenna onto it or connect it up to like a home base of some sort, like a Diamond X50 or something like that. But I mean, yeah, it's absolutely fine. No issues at all. I'm quite pleased with it. Steve, go ahead.
Yeah, G0SGR returning. Yeah, well, it sounds quality, to be honest with you, Simon. Some of the other handhelds you had, it sounds, it does sound a lot better. Whether it's conditions or what, I don't know, or position where you are. There's nothing. It's full scale all the way, and the audio is not breaking up. It's crystal clear. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, G7UFS returning. Yes, Steve. Yeah, I can't really fault it in any respect. Good audio, simple radio to use. Like I say, it's only 128 memories on this one, so you know, you haven't got the airband or anything. It's just the bog standard stuff really. So you know, it does what it does well. Can't really fault it. So did you fancy doing a try on maybe the 2 meter band as well there? Go ahead.
Yeah, G7UFS, G0SGR. Yeah, we can do. We can QSY to 2 meters and see how it goes. So we'll QSY to 145.200.
Okay, yeah, sounds like a plan to me. Yeah, we'll QSY 145.200. I'll wait for you to check if the frequency's in use, and I'll wait for your call, yeah? G0SGR, G7UFS testing the Retevis RA685 on 2 meters. Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, G7UFS, G0SGR returning. Yeah, okay, got you, Simon. And on 2 meters, it's still full scale, but the audio is, I would say, possibly 70%, not 100%. It's not 100% as loud, if you know what I mean. It's quieter. It's a fair bit quieter, 70%. But as far as the signal goes, it's full scale. Go ahead.
Okay, G7UFS returning. Yeah, okay, Steve. Yeah, I think we found this before, didn't we, with a lot of these radio tests, where we went to 2 meters and the audio wasn't quite as strong to you. But I think it's possibly down to the fact that maybe the signal is slightly weaker on 2 because we're using the small stock antenna. And I think it does have a little bit of a bearing on that sometimes. But yeah, likewise. Anyway, your audio's no different whatsoever. You're absolutely 100%. But there again, you would be with your fancy radio, with an FTM 500. Beautiful radio. So it's probably a bit unfair to compare, you know, the sort of setup you're running there with my £35 special. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, true. I mean, I could slip a little handheld I've got on, but I don't know what the battery power is on it, to be fair. But yeah, you're right in that way. It's you're on all the other handhelds and stuff. You have been a little bit quieter, apart from the Acer one. Go ahead. So it's I would say it's, you know, probably a 5-star handheld, to be honest. It's one of the better ones I've heard you on. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's great news, Steve. Yeah, no problem at all. No, I'm really pleased with that. It's a good little radio. Like I say, I'm going to be programming up and putting a few more frequencies into scan. 685 transceiver. So this is a little basic dual band handheld that you can buy from Amazon for just £35. So it's a pretty good value for money, really, Steve. Nice little radio, very compact. I did show you the other day, and you were remarking on how good the display was on this radio. Nice and clear to view, very legible in the sunlight there. Back to you, Steve.
Yeah, G0SGR returning. Well, yeah, it's, I can't pick any faults with it, Simon. It's crystal clear. You're absolutely, I don't know what power you're using, but you're absolutely full scale, straight across. There's no white noise or anything with the audio. It's as though you stood sort of right next to me, Simon. Go ahead.
Yeah, G7 UFS returning. Yeah, Steve. Yeah, very good audio from your side as well. Really good. Nice, clear, crisp audio. Fully quietening on the FM. No hiss, no crackle. Yeah, I'm using 4 watts, which is the maximum power on this radio on 7C. Just over 4 watts on the 2 metre band as well. But I'm really impressed with it for the money. I like the design of it. It's nice shape, very compact. Like I say, crystal clear audio, and can't really fault it. And this is on the stock antenna, so I'm just showing the viewers the antenna now. It's just a small rubber duck type antenna. Like I say, nothing fancy. You could put a bigger antenna onto it or connect it up to a home base of some sort, like a Diamond X50 or something like that. But I mean, yeah, it's absolutely fine, no issues at all. I'm quite pleased with it, Steve. Go ahead. This is Golf 7, Uniform Foxtrot Sierra, testing the Retevis RA685 on the 70cm band, 54321-12345. This is an audio test of the Retevis RA685 transceiver. How does the audio sound? 54321-12345. This is G7 UFS testing the audio on the Retevis RA685 transceiver on 145.200, the 2-metre amateur radio band, 54321-12345. Audio test on the Retevis RA685. How does this one sound? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Audio test from G7 UFS.
At the top end of the table, whichever league they've been in. So yeah, and like I said, coupled with the new owner's ambition and drive and vision, it was, like I say, it was a no-brainer to get back involved.
You've got a fair bit of league experience there, haven't you? You've got a player that will be known to Grimsby Town supporters in Michael Coulson, a long career within professional football, full-time football. He's in that squad. You've got 1 or 2 players that have played, be it either some level of club football or academy football, and a fairly ambitious squad there, haven't you?
Now, a few people have asked me about programming the Retevis RA685, and the best way to do this is using the freely available Chirp software. Now, Chirp is really good at programming all these Chinese radios. It's widely supported. It supports actually several hundred radios, and it keeps on adding new things to the list all the time. And the guy who writes the software is really great because he keeps on developing the software, and he only asks for a donation in return if you find the Chirp software very, very useful. And I think this is probably one of the best ways to program the radio. I mean, you can download the official programming software from Retevis, but at the end of the day, it's easier to just have one piece of software on your machine that can program up all these different radios rather than installing loads and loads of programs. So anyway, get the latest version of Chirp and plug in your K-type jack, which is the same one that's used for programming Baofeng and Quansheng transceivers. Very, very cheap out there if you haven't already bought one. Just about any old programming lead will do the trick, hopefully. And this is what I'm going to show you now. So if we just go into Chirp and go to radio and go download from radio, make sure you've got the COM port selected correctly. and then choose vendor Retevis, and the model is RA685. And if we just click OK now, sometimes it fails the very first time I do this, other times it works. Now, as you can see there, it says no response from radio, but all you do is click OK, try again, and there we go. It's flashing now on the top of the radio, the LED there. It's downloading the contents of the memory to the computer. It doesn't take long at all, because there's only 128 memories in this radio. And there you go, you can see the list. Everything looks good. We can edit any aspect of this that we want. We can change the memory banks, the repeater shifts, everything else. And if you've actually programmed up any other radios using Chirp, you can just cut and paste the memory channels into here to save you having to type them in again and again. So Chirp basically saves a lot of repetitive work, really, if you've got a number of different radios that you want to deploy the same frequency list to. And if we go into the settings tab, it's basic, but it does let you control all the aspects of the radio, including programming those side programmable buttons, like to toggle the lamp, the search features, and the monitor and FM radio. And there's all sorts of other preferences you can change in there. And when it comes to actually writing the memories back, you make your changes in here. Simply go to radio, go upload radio, click OK. Again, sometimes I get this radio did not respond message, but it doesn't really matter. We just click OK and try again. And there you go, we get a green light now on the programming side, on the radio itself, which shows that it's actually doing the memories and programming everything up to date. And then the radio will reboot once it's done. There you go, and it's back up and running. That's all the memory channels done and restored to the radio. And that is about it. Nice, straightforward, simple to use software. And as I say, Chirp is really, really good. So give it a try if you've never tried it before. That's the easiest way to do it. So there you have it, the Retevis RA685 dual band amateur radio. A great little radio if you're starting off in the amateur radio hobby, or at least you're just wanting to save a bit of money and don't want an expensive flashy radio to take out and about in a backpack or anything like that. The performance is pretty decent too. As you've seen, it worked great on the 2 and 77s band. The audio was good, everything was nice, the build quality was good, so I'm pretty impressed for the money. If you're interested in this radio, then we'll put some links in the description below, and you can see on amazon.co.uk where you can get it on next day delivery direct from the Retevis store, or you can go to retevis.com if you're outside of the UK and you want to see the other product range as well. My thanks to Retevis for sending this one over for evaluation. If you enjoyed the video, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel. It really does help us out there. So until the next video, I'm going to wish you so many frees, and we'll catch you again soon. Bye bye for now.